Now, a friend of mine has shared a video, a very old video by today's standards. It was about 11 years ago from At Real Time. It's with Bill Maher, and he was speaking with another gentleman who was kind of in agreement with him. And there was Ben Affleck and a few other people on the other side. It was three of them and two on Bill Maher's side, I guess you could say. Now, in this video, this was 2014. It's on Real Time with Bill Maher. It's on his channel. And the title of it, let me just double check the title. Bill Maher, Sam Harrison, but Ben Affleck, Sam Harris, and Bill Maher debate radical Islam. Now, this was really interesting to me because I don't know what to think about it necessarily. I know there's extremism in every religion. There's going to be. People are always going to take the extremes with things they believe, and that's just how it is. Now, in this video, you can see it for yourself. The title's there. I wish I could tag it. I might try to find a way. I don't know how to do it on YouTube yet, but I will put that in there in the description or on any of the social media networks. Long story short, they've been Bill Maher and the other gentleman next one, I think it's Sam Harris, were both saying there is this issue that they see with Islam of how there's a group of people who are very influential who have, well, what's the word I'm looking for? Without sounding crazy or being ridiculous about it, because I don't want to dramatize this, to be honest with you, and that are extreme and they have a lot of power, and they say that they even particularly point out the country of Egypt. Now I don't know how true this statement is. They brought up an example of in Egypt that 75% of people that were polled said that leaving the religion should be subject to capital punishment. Now, they were bringing up stats and other things of that nature. I go, okay. If I looked into it, I'd like to see the sources, etc., etc. But their argument was based on these studies and polls that were taken from people from these countries, and that's why they say there's a concern. Now, they didn't say the religion was evil or nothing. They're just saying there's a concern there, and it seems to be very prevalent within the culture, is all he's saying. But Ben Affleck, really, it was almost comical, and I kind of laughed at it, and how he was saying they were just blanketing Muslims and saying that they're all like that. I'm like, no, they're not saying that. They're bringing up examples of evidence of things they've seen. And Ben Affleck didn't challenge the sources. He didn't challenge the stats. He just said they were saying they were all like that. And he was really getting mad at, I mean, just frowning and doing it. And I thought to myself, well, you're saying they're blanketing statements, but actually you're generalizing that what they're saying is all. You're saying that they're saying all that and they're not. And then you get mad at them trying to say that they're being somehow racist. And I don't think they were. I think they genuinely were concerned and wanted to see what the other guys thought about it. But quite often, Ben Affleck and the other two guys would just argue and say that you're saying they're all like that when they didn't actually say that. It was just weird. He was really getting mad. And they were saying the main problem isn't those statistics. It's the way the people in the left, in the West, react. And he's saying how they try to silence you. Bill Maher and the gentleman sitting next to him saying how you try to silence by left-wing people in the States at the time that try to shut you down and don't want to hear you speak. They don't want to hear nothing you have to say, and they will shut it down if it sounds remotely against what they think. And in that video, Ben Affleck was demonstrating that. Every time they brought up a stat, he didn't challenge the stats. He didn't challenge the sources. He just said, you guys are trying to make them all look like that. And I'm like, no, that's not what they're doing. They were just going based off polls and things of that nature. And the best way I say, when someone gives you stats, right? Ask them what their interpretation of it is, get an understanding of that, and then you go from there. But Ben Affleck wasn't even getting that far. He was getting mad. Now, this is an old video, but I think it's actually relevant to today. Because even Bill Maher and the guy sitting next to him saying you can criticize Christians and you can even criticize Jews, but when it came to the Muslim community, Islam, it seems like the left are just overprotective. And they weren't saying that they were right even in their statistics. They're just saying you can't even have a conversation about it. And this is not coming from Muslims. This is coming from Christians in the West. And I think it would have been better if there was a Muslim there, to be honest with you. You know what I'm saying? A Muslim from those countries I think they would have had a more productive conversation because they could have at least give some perspective on why people think that way and why the culture is that way. Because remember, they're looking at Muslim Islam and Muslim culture from a Western point of view, right? They're not living in that culture. They don't understand it. And so I just think that's the problem. If you want to understand how people think in a religion or culture, you need to actually have them people and speak to those people. Because Ben Affleck and them, I don't think they're Muslim as far as I know. How would they know? They're just taking it. And Ben Affleck was also saying things like he's comparing it to Jim Crow and stuff. I'm like, well, no, that was totally different. Those rules and laws were based out of ignorance, not out of fact, right? So it's totally different. So I just thought it was really, to be honest, they should have been speaking to Muslim scholars or Muslims themselves and try to understand why people say that and think that way in these polls and how legitimate those polls were in the first place. That's all I'm saying. But it does illustrate how even today, that's still the case. Not much has changed in the last 11 years. And it's just odd to me. I think in a country that has freedom of speech, you should be able to criticize religions and other things as long as you're not calling for violence towards them, right? You're not calling for discrimination towards it. You know what I mean? Nothing illegal. Like if they're not breaking laws and they're just practicing religion in their own time, leave them alone, right? But you can have a conversation about it and try to get an understanding of why things are the way they are. That's all I'm saying. Just an interesting video. Let me read the name of it again. I found it fascinating. A friend sent it to me, and that's the title of it. Yeah, it's a Ben Affleck, Sam Harris, and Bill Maher debate, and this is on at Real Time. They got 12 million views. But how much has changed? I mean, when you watch that, people, and you think it was sent to me, and I thought that was current when I saw that. That's wild to me. That's why I was like, that's not new. I looked at the stat, 11 years old. I was like, nah, man, no, we're going nowhere fast, aren't we? No progress since then, has no real progress. And that's a shame. That's a shame. Because no one's talking about the real facts that they were talking about. And that's the problem. And when you're not talking, that's how things get worse. Anyway, on that note, y'all take care.